I'm back again with my co-host once again. This might as well be the Tom Root Show. He's on here as much as I am lately. But Tom, welcome. Thank you for joining us again.
It's wonderful to be here. My age, is wonderful to be anywhere.
Lies. I had to twist his arm tonight, guys. He actually had plans with the wife, and he's in the doghouse right now because of me. But we're going to talk about Paul Manafort and the fact that he was given home confinement through the CARES Act. And it's pretty interesting with how that's working, considering we've had so many individuals that were told they can't go for very specific reasons that we're going to let Tom chime in a minute here. But we're going to give everybody about 30 seconds to join in. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to the channel, tap on your bell, your little notification icon. Also, go ahead and text the word YouTube to 76626. That will put you on our notification text messages. If you want to schedule a consultation with Tom Root and talking about the possibilities of you qualifying through CARES Act, through home confinement, or through compassionate release, there's a link in the description of this video. I also just added it to the live chat, so you can check it there. We're also live on Facebook today, guys. So for those of you that don't use YouTube too often, you can definitely go check us out on Facebook. So Tom, again, welcome. Go ahead and kind of kick it off, man. Let's talk about Paul Manafort was sent home. How did this happen so fast?
Well, I'm very honored to have been the driving force behind getting him out. Yeah. I'm just kidding. Nothing to do with it. I have to say a lot of things surprised me when I get up in the morning, but that one was a real exceptional, even in these days of COVID-19. CARES Act. We'll start back with the CARES Act. The CARES Act authorized the BOP to send people to home confinement without regard to how much time they had served. Time was you could only go to home confinement if you had 10%, in the final 10% of your sentence, up to 6 months. CARES Act said as long as there's an emergency, the BOP can send anyone at any time, essentially designating your house to be your prison. So naturally, it wasn't as wide open as it could be. Otherwise, guys could get life one day and be sent to home confinement the next. The Attorney General laid out some standards. The BOP started to apply them. And they were standards that were skewed toward, white collar guys. Yeah, absolutely. Had to be nonviolent. Had to have no history of violence. Had to be minimum or low security, minimum pattern score, no shots in the last 12 months. And, the people who fit were the people who were in camps, mostly, almost exclusively. You saw very few people coming from Lowe's going to home confinement. But we saw one today, Paul Manafort. So before we get to him, let's talk about what happened, how the Bureau of Prisons managed to turn everything into a pretzel on CARES Act. BOP identified people who were likely eligible. Actually, the regions sent lists to the institutions and said, look, these are the people who look like they fit, vet them, verify them. Looking for people who had vulnerabilities, people who were old, people who had heart problems, respiratory problems, immune compromise problems. Morbid obesity was on the list. Smoking was not on the list. Some vices are still forbidden. And BOP went through the list and identified all these people. And I know I was working with some folks who were excited because they went into this 14-day quarantine so they could go home. Then, one woman, I won't forget, she was 2 days from going home. BOP came in and said, oh, we've adopted a new standard. Now you have to have served 50% of your sentence, or 25% of your sentence and have 18 months left or less. And you don't qualify. My woman had like 43% done. So they sent her back to the unit. They sent a lot of people, hundreds, back to the units. And there was quite a kerfuffle about it in the press. BOP looked as bad as it should have looked, which is pretty bad. It was just plain stupid if you don't adopt the rule right at the beginning, you shouldn't adopt it midway through the fourth quarter and then apply it to everybody. So let's fast forward to Manafort. We find out today that Paul Manafort has been sent home by the Bureau of Prisons under the CARES Act for home confinement. Well, they say Manafort he had a number of the risk factors. He's 71, so he's elderly. They said he had heart problems. He had respiratory ailments, although they didn't say what. He had liver disease. He had high blood pressure. What he didn't have was 50% of his sentence served. The guy's got a 71-month sentence. He had 54 months to go. Mathematically, it worked out to somewhere like 28% of his sentence served. So the BOP's explanation was, we have discretion to look at this on a case-by-case basis. Well, happy coincidence, the case that becomes the exception is a guy who was at FCI Loretto, a place that had no COVID-19, and a guy who had only done 28%, 29% of his sentence. Any place else, he would have been denied. I have seen
perfect example. We spoke to a guy today who called. I hope he's watching right now, because this is really what sparked me wanting to do the video. We spoke to a gentleman today who has a mother that's in federal prison serving a sentence, who has not served her 50%. She was on a list. And how old did he say? I think she said she was 60.
She's 64, but she's got several of what they like to call the comorbidities. She had several risk factors all working together to make things dangerous.
And they had actually gone out and verified her residence, told her she was going home. And they just found out today. They went back and told her she's not going because she hasn't served 50% of her sentence. So clearly, when you see something like this with Paul Manafort, who is in a prison that has had zero cases as far as really nothing relevant, this has got to be a slap in the face, I would imagine, to a lot of individuals right now who feel like, well, here it is. Everybody talks about, if you're powerful and you have money and, your celebrity status, you can pull strings. Do you think this is going to help individuals that are trying to go through the process right now, either through CARES, or if they're denied through CARES, going through a compassionate release through the sentencing court? And I want to say hi to Sean. Sean, thank you. Sean Calgill, one of our clients who just chimed in the room. Sean, welcome. Thanks for joining, man. Glad to see you. Glad to see you're free. And I'm glad you're joining us. Hope you're doing well, my man.
Okay. Will it make a difference in the CARES Act? No, absolutely not. All my friends, reasonable people, the BOP. Problem with the CARES Act, and I've already gotten a couple of emails from people saying, we're trying to find lawyers to handle a class action against the BOP for the way it's abusing us under the CARES Act. I wrote back and I said, knock yourself out. But the BOP is essentially immune from suit on this. The BOP is designating your house to be the prison, and the BOP's designation decisions are virtually unchallengeable. The BOP cannot be touched under the Administrative Procedure Act, and since this is not cutting your sentence, just moving you to a different venue, you can't habeas corpus these guys. So I said, yeah, maybe someone smarter than I am can figure out how to sue them and win on this, but I don't think so. That's number one. Number two, I found the BOP, the people making the decisions have a remarkable talent for inconsistency and not really caring that they're being inconsistent. I think that if you complain to the warden at, FCI straitjacket that Manafort got out with 29%, you've got 48%, and you're as sick as he was, I was going to say, I don't care. I've already had people telling me that they've had wardens at some facilities saying, I don't care about the CARES Act. Nobody's going home. So what do you do? Now, the better question is, what does this mean for compassionate release? I can't wait. I think that lawyers everywhere are going to have so much fun beating the government over the head with the Manafort decision. When the government complains that, well, to let someone go to home confinement under compassionate release tends to diminish the seriousness of the offense in the eyes of the public, all you do is jump up and down and scream, Manafort, Manafort. It didn't bother you when a guy who was front page all across the country got to go to home confinement with 71% of his sentence left to serve. So how's it going to hurt for my little old client who nobody knows, the papers won't pick it up, to go to home confinement for the last half of his sentence. And, at the same time, I've seen the government successfully argue that the BOP can take care of these people. And after all, there's no COVID-19 at FCI straitjacket. So why should you get to go home? Well, I think the answer is easy. For the same reason Paul Manafort got to go home, because it's going to be dangerous if he catches it. And obviously, it doesn't make any difference whether there's COVID-19 at the place or not.
So does that kind of go along with, we just had a comment from Jamie, as you can see it. You see it there on the screen there, Tom?
Yes.
So how do you feel about that?
I think Jamie's absolutely right. It is outrageous. It will set a persuasive precedent, not a legal precedent, but a persuasive one, to the extent we use it effectively and just push hard against the government. And I know I'm gonna. I think other people will too. As soon as the government starts to say anything about, I just saw one saying, well, this woman shouldn't get home confinement. She got 24 months and she's done 12 because it was a serious crime, and it will diminish the appearance of or the seriousness of the crime in the eyes of the public, encourage disrespect for the law. And I know what she needs to say in her reply to that. I mean, you can just write in large letters on one page, Manafort. What do you say? If Manafort didn't do that, then nothing does that. So it's pretty much neutered it. But I'm actually happier to have the BOP take the position that if you've got comorbidities and if you've got the risk factors, you should be let out whether there's COVID-19 anywhere nearby or not.
And you spoke about this on your, and tell us a little bit about your website, the newsletter, who gets it, who sees it, because that's pretty important, because a lot of these individuals that have loved ones in the prison system, not everybody, unfortunately, can afford a service that we provide, whether my service or your service, but we do provide a lot of free information, and that's why we do these videos full of content. Tell people a little bit about your website, Tom, and how people can find you there and how they can send it to their loved ones.
Well, I started about 5 years ago doing a weekly newsletter. I had a few inmate contacts and I sent it to them the first week. I think I had 13 subscribers, or I called them subscribers. I've passed 8,500 now. Newsletter goes out every Sunday night, and it has gone out every Sunday night for the past nearly 5 years, except I took a week off last summer for my 40th wedding anniversary, and nobody complained. I gave them a heads up first. But I noticed some time ago, when I was in a position that many of your loved ones are in, that no one had any good information in there, mostly about legislation. I mean, we got plenty of information about new cases because back then Criminal Law Reporter was being circulated in the units every week by the BOP provided it. But you'd always hear that Senator such and such had put a bill in. I'm constantly hearing, hey, when's the 2/3 bill going to pass? That's the bill that lets everyone out after 2/3. And I always have to say, never. It's never going to pass. It doesn't even exist. So I thought, if I do a newsletter and tell people what happens to these bills when they get introduced, and whether they pass or don't pass, and try to give them more information than they have, it might benefit, and it still does. Anybody who has a Core Links connection can take the newsletter. If you're on the outside and you want to get it, you can send your email address to newsletter@lisa-legalinfo.com, and I'll put you on the list, and you'll get it Sunday night too. And I take what I put in the newsletter, generally expand on it, usually add a dollop of cynicism and a few cute pictures, and I put it up on my website throughout the week. So, you can also pretty much read it just by looking at the website. Now, today, it hadn't been in the newsletter yet. That's because I was shocked and appalled last night to see Terminal Island 693 cases of COVID-19 overnight dropped to 150.
Yeah. How do you think that happened? And we had one of our clients that has, well, we've got a few clients that have family there right now. What do you think caused those drastic drops in numbers overnight?
Well, I don't know. I went back and I read the Gospel of John and thought that could be it, but I doubt if it was a mass miracle. So I don't know. I'm still puzzling about it. I've said to my wife, we were out with the dog, and I suddenly just out of nowhere said, what troubles me about it is they tested everybody, and that's how they figured out they had COVID-19. They didn't go in and test all those people again on Monday and find out it was miraculously gone. So what happened? I had a guy say, I'll bet they transferred them, but they didn't transfer that many at once. It's possible that they built a big tent hospital at Terminal Island. Maybe they put them inside the tent and they can use some kind of accounting and get them off the prison rolls. That's possible.
So maybe they found a way to circumvent the numbers by segregating somewhere else potentially.
Yeah, well, I can tell you a quick story about that. I had a guy call me from a FCI down south the other day, and he said that a CO he knew had told him that the administration told all the staff that they should get tested in town for COVID-19 instead of being tested at the institution. Because that way, if they had COVID-19, the institution wouldn't have to report it to the head office. So the number of staff having it would fall down. So is the BOP capable of coming up with some kind of accounting trick? Yeah, they may have moved them off the rolls to somewhere else. They may have designated the tent an adjunct of a federal medical center. I don't know. I don't think they transferred that many at one night. I can't imagine packing all the buses with those people, all with sick, 500 some sick inmates and moving them someplace else. Doubt that happened.
What do you think of what Jamie just said? He says he knows people whose sentencing date was moved because, quote, we want to make sure if sentenced, they serve the time not to be released to home confinement due to the pandemic. What are your thoughts on that?
I can see some of the knuckleheads in the BOP and the Marshal Service saying exactly that. I know that officially the BOP has moved out, has made requests to the AUSAs and the courts to extend sentence self-surrender dates because they don't want these people coming in. They got their hands full. They don't want these people coming into the pandemic. You can think of a very rational reason for doing that. I can also see people saying something to the effect of, yeah, I want you to do your whole time. I don't want you to go home early. So yeah, I believe that. I believe someone said that.
So people right now that are going through this, that are seeing this, that have families, loved ones that were denied due to the not serving 50% or more of their time, and they're feeling maybe they're defeated. Are these people that should be reaching out to us right now to see if there's something that we can do to potentially assist them?
Well, I know that's what I tell people, who say, well, I was denied the CARES Act. I said, okay, well, there's not much you can do. You can file the administrative remedy. You can file a BP-9, a BP-10, a BP-11 with the BOP, go up the ladder. But once you get to the central office and you're denied, there's no place to go. I said, or you can use your energies and ask the court for compassionate release, because it isn't a strict standard. It's much looser. It's what the judge wants. You can build a persuasive case to the judge. And frankly, you can use a lot of what the BOP does against it. And by that, I mean Manafort.
Should that just be like what people use as
yeah,
phrase?
Yeah, there was a motion a few years ago that a guy won on, and people were all abuzz. They're calling it the Holloway motion. Well, Holloway motion is a black swan, and that's a whole different story. But you could just about call this thing the Manafort motion. It says, yeah, let this bum out. How about me? That's pretty much it.
Guys, if you have a question or a comment that you would like Tom to answer and you want us to do it live here so other people can obviously ask it, Go ahead and post your comment in the room, and I'll go ahead and share it on the screen like I've been doing for the several other comments. Also, if you're watching this video after the live stream, feel free to post your comment in the actual description under the leaving us a message or a comment, and we can either send you an email or give you a call. Also, as I posted several times in the description of this video and also in the live chat, there's a link where you can actually book a free consultation to talk to Tom to find out what you might need to do in order to potentially increase the odds of receiving a compassionate release. So like I said, we've got about 10 more minutes left of this video. So if you've got questions for Tom, now's the time to post your comments. Post them in the live chat right now. Tom, it's been an insane. How long do you think this is going to last? I mean, they're talking about the curve flattening out in the free world. Like right now, they started slow opening the beaches, the restaurants. I'm going to go out to dinner after this, and I'm not going to wear a mask, but I am going to go out to dinner after this. Do you see the curve flattening in the BOP anytime soon?
Who can say? I keep a chart, a daily chart, and graph on this thing, and it plummeted yesterday because all of a sudden 543 people at Terminal Island didn't have it anymore. But the one sure thing is we had another death. Another death today. 2 deaths yesterday. The deaths keep going at the rate of about 10 a week, and that tells me that BOP can say what they want. That part isn't flattening, but and I understand you're not wearing a mask. It's hard to eat with one on, Dan. But frankly, the people in CDC today just laid out best estimate, worst estimate, and middle ground for the next 3 weeks. And middle ground, they're talking about the country going from 80 to 110,000 deaths. They're talking about the curve not flattening out there yet. And as the BOP does more testing, we're not going to see it flattening in the BOP. But what has me much more worried is they're talking about out 3, 6, 9 months, things are still going to be bad. I mean, what if the curve flattens? What if it levels out so we're only running at any one time with 3,000 inmates sick? It's still not a good thing. And we don't know what happens when you get over it. They're still trying to figure out if you get any immunity out of the antibodies or not. I mean, it's a hot mess out there.
It sure is.
I think, this is a good time if you're going to try to get out. I said it the other day at the risk of repeating myself, which my wife says I do all the time. Rahm Emanuel said back when he was Obama's chief of staff that you shouldn't let a good crisis go to waste. Dan and I talked to a guy the other day, and actually we're talking to his family member, and wasn't sure whether he should file this now or what. And I said, well, look, maybe he's not going to get sick. Maybe he's already sick. The guy was at Terminal Island and out of communication. Said, we don't know. But if the guy wants to get out early, there's probably no better set of facts to support exceptional and compelling than you've got right now.
Agreed. So basically the gist of that is if there's ever a time to take advantage of a horrible situation, now's the time to see if anything can stick to the wall. Tom, you ever heard of the SOAR program? SOAR?
Well, my son was in SOAR, but that was Army Special Operations Aviation Regiment, so that's not the one. No, I don't think I have. I'm trying to think of an acronym in the BOP with SOAR, and it doesn't ring a bell to me.
Okay, so let's go on. We got a lot of questions that just flew in here. Tom Lynch had a question. I might have missed it, but what was Manafort's total sentence, and how much time does he have left?
He was due to get out with good time in November of 2024. I did the calculations, and by my calculations, he was somewhere right around I want to say 54 months left, and it was a 71-month sentence. But he has not done a ton of time. Although he did have some jail time credit in there too.
Feels like he went in. I mean, it seems like yesterday, but
yeah.
time does fly.
And I would say if you want to capitalize on Manafort's getting out and you have unlimited funds, what I would do is find Manafort's lawyers and hire them because those guys can, spit miracles.
All right, so we get another question here. Jamie, can you get compassionate release of sentencing due to various issues besides COVID at sentencing, Tom?
No, literally, the statute says you had to be sentenced before you can get the sentence reduction. The standard for compassionate release in the statute's a simple one. I mean, there's not a lot to it. It's got to be events or circumstances that are both extraordinary and compelling reasons for a sentence reduction. We are working on a few where the people have not self-surrendered yet, and they're making the argument for compassionate release. And we've had one ruled on where the judge turned it down, but extended the guy's self-surrender date by about 6 or 8 months.
Well, that kind of goes into a question right here. Again, Jamie, you're loaded with questions today. Swear to God, I didn't hire Jamie to ask really good questions, but these are good questions, Jamie. Jamie's got another one. Basically, what he's saying is, let's say you don't want to move your sentencing date and you want to get sentenced right now. You're like, no, I don't want to postpone it. Can the defendant have any say in the matter, or can the defendant's counsel have any say in the matter, or is it strictly up? I mean, obviously, the judge can do whatever they want, but do you think it's likely they're not going to sentence somebody right now, waiting for COVID to do what it's going to do?
Oh, I don't see any problem with them sentencing now. What they usually do is just extend the self-surrender date. But can you control that? I worked on a post-conviction motion once where the guy argued that his speedy trial rights weren't violated, but he also had a constitutional right to a speedy sentence because the sentence got put off for like 3 or 4 years. And the court decided no, there was no due process right or any other kind of constitutional right to a speedy sentence. So if a defendant says, I want to be sentenced now, and the judge says, I don't feel like it, there's not much you can do. If the defendant's urging sentence and defendant's lawyers are urging sentence, the court probably is going to accommodate them because all those courts have internal operating procedures and they've got standards the judges are supposed to meet on getting cases moved through. So, if the judge can finish it up, sentence it, and put another tick mark in the completed column, then he doesn't get a nasty call from the administrative judge saying, what are you doing down there?
Question from Sean Cowgill. Was Manafort going to do RDAP? Do you know if he was lined up for RDAP? I don't personally know that question or not. I'm going to guess his attorneys probably would have prepped him for anything that could have shaved off time.
Oh, yeah. I can't believe that guys who were that good would have left that out, but I've never seen anything one way or the other on that.
So here's a good question. And I think I saw this yesterday. I forgot the answer. Which BOP facility has the highest COVID cases?
Boy, it just about depends on the day. A lot of them are claiming top prize, but as of right now, it is the Federal Correctional Complex at Lompoc, California.
Is it Lompoc? I thought there was one that was outdoing them.
Well, Terminal Island was ahead for a while, but they managed to somehow move a lot of COVID cases off the roster. Fort Worth is fairly high, but I'm not sure how high. We could of course take a look.
I'm taking a quick peek here. I just forget where we go here.
Yeah, it's my computer's almost taught itself to go there.
Wasn't it on
details? Let's see. Facility Lompoc number 1 with 885, Fort Worth with 622, Forest City 247, Lexington 206, Butner 166, Terminal Island down to 140.
Down to 140.
Yeah, if this is a horse race, I hope you didn't put any money on Terminal Island. It's going to finish out of the money.
And guys, if you're interested, also you're more than welcome to go take a peek over at. And let me pull it up here. Over to our website, my website, Federal Prison Time Consulting. And just go to federalprisontime.com, and we have right there at the top of the page, we have a COVID-19 information page that will bring you right over to the BOP's website, where it specifically talks about COVID-19 and the information from them. So feel free to come take a gander over at federalprisontime.com. So let me see if we got any more questions in here, Tom. These questions were coming in faster than I was anticipating. We got this. He's explaining SOAR's Act a little bit. SOAR, sentencing options that achieve results. I don't know if that's a federal program. I have heard of it before. I don't know enough about it to comment on it, but I know they're, I deal with mostly federal situations, and obviously states and counties and different areas have a million different programs going on. So I can't say that are you looking up SOAR, Tom?
Yeah.
Peyton was just asking where we find these numbers. Peyton, if you go over to the BOP's website, which again, you can either get there going to the BOP's website directly, or you can go visit my website, federalprisontime.com. There's a link that will bring you to the stats that you can look up. And if you can't find it, feel free to shoot me a message, which you can see my contact information up on the top corner of your screen there, 509-434-4695. You can text me. You can also send an email to dan@federalprisontime.com. Guys, do not forget, if you want to book yourself a consultation, now is the time to do it. You got the ticker going at the bottom of the screen right there. All you got to do is you can either use this link that I'm posting in the live chat right now, or for those of you that are watching this video at a later date, in the description of this video, there is a link to book a free consultation with Tom. Just look for the calendar link. It's a free 30-minute conversation. A lot of times the conversation goes a little bit into overtime if we don't have anybody else waiting. You can book more than one consultation if you need to, but usually Tom is able to. We have added some additional questions to the consultation link to try to get you guys a little bit more prepped for the call with some of the additional information to make our job a little bit easier. But Tom, you got any final parting words? I know you wanted to knock this thing out in 30 minutes so your wife doesn't divorce you, so I'm trying to be respectful of your time.
It's been 40 years. I think I have tenure now. I did look up SOAR. And SOAR was adopted in 2016 by U.S. District Court, Northern District of Illinois. But quick look, it doesn't look like anyone else is doing it. So, yeah, it looks like a great idea, which probably explains why no one else is doing it. But beyond that, if it sounded like I was at all critical of the Bureau of Prisons during this session, that was not an accident.
Let's see. Got another. I'll take one more question after this. If somebody wants to post a really good question, and I'll determine if it's really good. But hey, Dan and Tom, are there any defendants who have been sentenced directly to home confinement by the judge when the guidelines call for prison time during the pandemic? I'm going to say yes. But I've had clients that have been sentenced directly to home confinement outside of the pandemic when their guidelines called for prison time, as long as there wasn't a minimum mandatory that they were stuck to.
Yeah, of course, the judge has the authority to do that. And I don't know directly of any, because usually the people I'm paying attention to have a lot bigger problems than that. But
just remember,
it wouldn't surprise me at all to hear it.
Campana, when you see the guidelines, those are advisory guidelines. The judge has the discretion to go above or below those guidelines, unless in the odd case where there's a minimum mandatory and the client doesn't qualify for something like a safety valve. So, and other than that, the judge can give a probated sentence or a home confinement sentence, even if the guidelines are calling for 5, 6, 7 year sentence. He completely has the discretion to do so, and that's why preparation before you get sentenced, before you do your PSR, before you take your plea deal, most of our work and the scope of our work here at Federal Prison Time really focuses on pre to all of this. We happen to be focusing on the aftermath right now because this is big in the media, and a lot of individuals potentially could qualify to go home that are sitting in prison. So this has taken a front seat. But the level of our work that we normally focus on is personal narratives, character reference letters, PSR preparation, what you can do to position yourself different from the average person in a similar situation to create that positive outcome that you're looking for, such as a potential home confinement or reduced sentence below the guideline range. A lot of people think it doesn't matter what you do, the judge is going to give you the sentence that he wants to give you. And yes, in many situations, you can't force the judge to do anything. But if you put enough hard work and effort into a situation, you can defy the odds and you can give that judge a reason to go, hey, this is not what I'm used to seeing. This is the type of person that I would like to consider giving, my one home confinement pass a year. You can create that outcome if you're willing to put in the work and the effort. I don't think I see any other questions in there. Guys, I think that's all we got. Tom, my man. Tom is the co-host or the primary host. Either way, it works for me. I'd like to thank you again for joining us. And, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen next week with this whole COVID-19 and the pandemic and how it's affecting the CARES Act and compassionate release. But I can tell you, if anything pops out of the woodwork, guys, we will reel in Tom. We'll have him live on here again to talk about what's going on. And thank you to Mrs. Root. If you happen to watch this later, I'm sure she doesn't watch our live stream, but if she does, thank you for allowing Tom to come spend some time with us again. It means a lot to myself and all of the viewers that really do look for this for content to help them reduce the anxiety and the fear of the unknown. Tom, you got any final parting words you want to leave anybody with?
Just explore all your options. Explore them as far as each one can go without making a choice. And then when you've got everything developed, do what makes sense.
Well said. Well said. Guys, I'm RDAP Dan, Federal Prison Time Consulting. People up and people, communities method, one day at a time. Don't forget, jump on there, post your free consultation, get your free consultation. Can't wait to talk to you guys. Until next time, stay safe, wash your hands, or don't. I don't really care, but I love you guys. Have a great day. Peace. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay.